Hello. I would say, how are we all doing? But it doesn't seem like it's been the best week for anybody, does it?
No.
So we'll skip that. Hello, and I'm glad to see you here. And I hope everybody who's not been all right is getting there. Let's put it like that. Right. Can everybody hear me, Mike? Or am I just talking to myself?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, good. Right. Okay, let's get on. Reasons will become clear why, but hello. Right, we have got an update to Notion, which has kind of been coming out in episodes. I'm calling it batch updates. We've then got a Vivaldi, the 5.7 update. Tiny, but worthwhile. Let's put it like that. The Affinity beta program, that's definitely worthwhile. We have FREEBIES and we have Obsidian. And in Obsidian, we are looking at the Obsidian canvas, which is what sets Obsidian apart from most text-based note-taking apps. Right, we are broadcasting in 1080p. Make sure you are watching in 1080p. I don't think it's done anything stupid to me this week, but I've been on mobile quite a bit, so maybe that was why. While you're down there making sure that you're watching in 1080p, there is a like button. Give us a like, really makes a difference. Okay, so let's wind it back to last Saturday, which was the day after Friday, which might sound obvious, but you know, in this world, doesn't necessarily mean a thing. But I went off to find the perfect image to illustrate the accusatorial side eye for Tracy, and I think this image nailed it. How many times did Maya give us that look, Mike?
Plenty.
Oh, an adorable Samoyed. Tesco's. Oh, let's say they did not cover themselves in glory. They promised abundance. Then set about attempting to deliver abundance. They geared up to collect everything for us. Reality? They were out of stock of almost everything. So pretty much by the time they were ready to deliver, we might starve. What could they possibly do to redeem themselves? They sent Wendy with it. Well, with the tiny little basket of what was left, they sent Wendy with it. So Lola was rather pleased, wasn't she?
She was.
Sweet pea.
Sweet pea.
Sweet pea, yes.
No, she got called her name.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she said, "How's Lola?"
Oh, wow. She must have a second brain to put all this information in. But with kisses and treats for little Sweet pea. That's Lady Lola. And then I was having fun and games, not in a good way. For last week, so this is not last week, this is the one before, I was hovering on 1,499 views. So I thought I'll leave it a bit. I'll go back and hopefully somebody will have watched and it'll push it over the 1,500. So sometime later, I returned. Yeah, I wondered what was going on as well. How can the views go down? I mean, I could understand people putting a like on it and then changing their minds. The like goes up and down like an idiot. But how can you unwatch it? If anyone knows, let me know. It carried on going up and down all week. It was a farce. I've really no idea what's going on with it. Which took us through to Sunday.
Carol says they've got a new Lola in the village.
Oh.
A German Shepherd puppy.
Oh, we might need to share that. Sunday, this was announced. There are no words. Did you see the protest this week? Not my king. He totally ignored it. It's like he's on another planet. Anyway, that is the logo for King Charles and his coronation. All I care about is we've got an extra day's holiday. Anything else, not bothered. But the reason I mention this, because, why would I be mentioning this? Like it's on the side of a teapot, whatever. It was made by none other than Johnny. Not that Johnny. No, not that one. Not our Johnny. Do you remember that with Johnny? Best picture of lockdown, that. No, it was this Johnny. It was Johnny I. Apparently he's worked for the king before. So jobs for the boys then. And he'd already been given a knighthood. They didn't explain whether he's been paid or not for that. But apparently we can all use it. So if you want to put it on the side of a teapot, you can. You just need to check the guidelines on the King's site. But I lasted on there all of about 5 seconds. So then there was the Premier League. You were a bit grumpy, weren't you?
Was I?
I remember grump. But it all ended well. Yes, there was grump, wasn't there? Because of what happened after the game. But during the match, it was fine. United won 2-0. But the fans were goading each other. You're wondering why, aren't you? So do I. I don't understand it. But apparently the Leeds fans were doing airplane motions, having a laugh at the Munich air crash, while the United fans were singing about 2 deaths in Istanbul. So, yeah, classy. Not. So, well, at least they agreed to put a thing out together, didn't they? They put a statement out saying they were both as bad as one another, which, duh. Oh, yeah. Anyway, we started the week. I was excited on Monday, I'll be honest. World Radio Day, theme of which is radio and peace. It sounds like Holocaust Memorial Day, doesn't it? I'm sure they had peace as their theme a couple of years back. Anyway, usually there is a Hindenburg discount code. There was something Hindi. The announcement of the beta. They only had 100 places on the webinar that was announcing this, and I didn't get an invitation. Luckily, Mike did, so he passed it over to me. So I toddled along to the webinar, and I did sign up for the beta. The most exciting thing of the beta is the fact that you can now colour code not just tracks, but you can colour code clips. And they've improved the clipboard. Now, everybody else was getting giddy about the fact it's got internal transcription, and to be transcribed, the data does not need to leave your machine. But I was thinking that's going to cost, isn't it? Which they said it would. They just didn't say how much. So we're kind of in limbo with that, but it's on its way. It isn't going to be here for the next couple of months at least, but this year is their hope. So remember, it's Monday. I'd only just finished Ship 30 and there I was again. Here we go again. Not with Ship 30 though. No, Captain's Table this time. I decided to go through the Captain's Table in a more organised way than I usually do. So I got the course guide and I went through onboarding this week, and then I've got to choose from all of those courses. I'm so tempted to go straight to the yacht, but I shouldn't. I should stick with the lower ones. Also on Monday, this has been a while coming, 500 days in a row reading on Kindle. I can't even begin to describe the anguish of looking at these stats at 5 to midnight, knowing that I've been reading for an hour and it's not updated. There's been a couple of occasions when more than bad words were said, I can assure you, but it racked up all right. So I'm now on 504 or 505 days. 504 days. Oh, Tuesday, very important day, Valentine's Day. But as Mike has already said, loves me every day of the year. Just like I love you. You lucky boy.
Thank you.
The funniest thing I got, and every event seems to have been hijacked. Are you guys seeing that? I got this, Fall in Love with P Cloud. So I thought, let's go and have a look. Plus 2 terabytes. Well, I've already got 4. So let's go for the 10, I thought. £890. Yikes. So, no, I didn't do that. Do you know, if that had been a reasonable amount, I would have done it. But that was ridiculous. Did anybody else do it? Did you do it? Not for me, not at that price. Wednesday was interesting as well. They set me a bit of a challenge, did Apple. It was calories of whatever that means. But basically I had to do it for 2 solid weeks, which I did. So that was grand. I think actually I've worn myself out since then. Thursday, you had a webinar at a most inopportune time, didn't you? Right in the middle of the match. So he left me in charge of keeping an eye on them. First half wasn't exactly riveting, but the second half was better, wasn't it? Once you'd arrived. And it finished 2-2. Most unfortunate, actually, because they scored last, didn't they? So there was hope we would win. But it's a 2-legged affair, isn't it?
It is.
So
as my mother said, what happens now? I said there's another game next week.
But they keep changing the rules, so it's difficult to follow. So first of all, like, it is two-legged or it's not two-legged, you know, it's a knockout. Wasn't the European Cup a total knockout?
Used to be.
Yeah, so
many
they've changed the rules a million times. But the latest is whether away goals count double.
No, they scrap that now.
They scrap that as well. Typical after we score 2 away goals. So we'll see what happens next week, week after.
Next week.
When Barca come to town, which they're doing. Okay, which takes us on to today. So, in the interests of full transparency, I'll be honest with you, I am not 100% well today. But I will endeavour to soldier on. So fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong because I'm really in no frame of mind for it all. I'll be honest. So let's have a look at the Notion updates, batch updates. Let me know in the chat who has tried this, who has seen it and who has tried it. I will show you what it is. So first of all, we're going to need a Notion page, which I did have open, but probably it's moved
I
since
sort of
then.
tried it by accident.
Ah, yes.
With my check boxes on the shopping list this morning.
It's very weird that they've not actually been more transparent about what they're doing with this. Right, so I've called this batch processing. I could write about batch processing with AI, but I probably shouldn't. Right, let's stick in a database. So we'll get a blank page and we'll put in an inline table. Right. So first thing that they've enabled you to do in here, we should probably, I have no idea what I'm going to call this. How about to-dos? How about to-dos? Right. So the first thing they've enabled you to do, and I think it works with dates as well, which was fascinating as far as I was concerned. Right, so let's say I've got item 1 and whatever. You can, so this could be, I mean, obviously I put a 1 on it, but if you've got things in there where you're going to have item 1, item 2, or whatever, right, you can now, but you have to click in just the right place. So you can see it's blue when it's selected, and as you hover, you get the open button. But you also now have this thing where it's like a circle. You can hover elsewhere and you get other things, but you have to hover right over there to be able to pull it in. Now, all it's doing is copying. But if you want items like that, it's faster to do that than it is to actually type all the words. So that's one thing that they've put in. This is actually useful when it's dates and things like that. However, that's not how I do it. If I've got multiple items, so maybe something like the ship 30 days, I will do that in a spreadsheet and just copy and paste it. And so although they have added this and it's quite useful and they're calling it working in batches, there are better ways to do that. But it's there if you need it. Can't say fairer than that. It's there if you need it. Right, the next item. So what I'm going to do here is, let's put some extra items in. Let's just keep putting new items in. Right, so this is what I do when I've got items for the show. So the entire table is the content items filtered for a particular show. So what I'll do up there is, and you can see I've got to press escape before I can pull this down. And I don't care what the items are. What I'm showing you here is that, again, it's all to do with where you place your mouse. It's getting to the stage where I feel it's like Excel was a few years ago. Lots of different things happen depending precisely where you clicked, but nobody actually knew what they were. So as I hover over here, you can see that appears. So as I'm hovering here, nothing. But if I hover in that gap, I get a checkbox, but there is no checkbox in there. Obviously, I can add a checkbox. That just says checkbox, but that'll do nicely. But that is not what we're talking about here. This is now where you can make multiple selections. But again, it's just not clear that you can do that. But if you hover to the left of that and you start to select, you can see that you do get this checkbox and it's checked. And it's saying you've got 6 selected. If you click there, it unselects them. That's quite useful if you do want to batch process certain things. So for instance here, if this first one had a tag, let's say a tag of MacBites, and you wanted these to have a tag of MacBites, you've got a couple of things. Can we select it first? That would be interesting. Right, let's drag it down. Yes, you can. So as long as the tags are the same, you can pull them down. But if you wanted, you know, the odd numbers to be tagged as MacBites, that's not a bad start, but then you'd have to go through and unselect some. But you can actually do that. So you can check these to deselect one at a time. And then you can, over here on the domino, the 6 dots, you can click on there, edit a property, choose which property, in this case it's tags, and then I can add that one in to just the selected ones. So that's actually quite useful. Even more useful, because what I did with that when I selected them was to select the bottom 7 and then deselect. It would be easier still if I could just click to select, and you can just by hovering over there. But some people have said to me, I didn't put this checkbox in and a checkbox has appeared, what's going on? It's not a checkbox in terms of being associated with the data. Not at all. It is just in the interface to allow you to make a selection. It's not going to be there later. But with those selected, I can then click in here and edit the property. And if I go back into tags, if I wanted this one to be something for my blog, I can actually create a new tag and apply it in one maneuver. So if you've been fiddling around in Notion, and you've needed to do things like this, I think this does make it a little bit easier. Who has noticed it? Who's tried it? Who thinks it's a good idea? I thought Kim might like it. What is everybody saying, Mike?
Nobody's saying anything.
Oh, so that was interesting then. I thought that was quite an improvement, to be honest. Some of the other improvements that they're making a big fuss about is page tracking. So to track what's been going on with the page, I can't...
Carol says, how do you update?
How do you update what? How do you update so you've got this feature?
I guess that's what she means.
You should see, every now and then, if you leave it open, which I do, you'll see a blue bar going right across the top. And the blue bar will say update. If you've closed it down and you go back in, you might not see that, but it should automatically update itself. Does it tell you anymore?
Kim likes it but not tried it, and Ken says we're all stunned.
I'm having a look in here. Didn't it used to tell you what version was installed? Because it isn't anymore. I'm sure it used to tell you what version was installed. Or is it off the help menu? It's a long time since I've had a moan with them. There you go. Updated 1 day ago. So check at the bottom that you've got at least that version at a minimum. But that has actually, they never announced it. And I thought, what's this that's popping up? And I thought, oh, I can see what it's doing. But I thought, why have they not mentioned it? It's taken them weeks to actually come out and say, right, we've done this. And I thought, but this has been dragging on for weeks. So some people will have seen it, some may not have seen it, and some may just be thinking what's going on. But that's what it's for, that's how to use it. So the idea is, they're making it more spreadsheet-like in terms of what you can do. But for things like dates and stuff like that, I still populate it from a spreadsheet, I'll be honest. So what I do is, that goes in there, so I have a date. I can click in there, and obviously I can choose it from a calendar. So once I've done that, I've got it in there, and you can see I can drag down here, and it will copy that down, but obviously that might not be what I want. If that was MacBite shows, we'd need more than a day between each one, wouldn't we? Possibly a lifetime between each one. So what I do is I put the dates in a spreadsheet and copy from there. The trick, if you're in the UK and it's not working for you, it's doing all kinds of weirdness, is you need it to be in US format. Even if you've got this configured in UK format, from the spreadsheet, it needs to be a US date. And then you can copy and paste in and it's fine. So really, it's just a few little tweaks to improve stuff. I think it's handy. I do the updating a lot where I select these. In fact, sometimes I find it quite difficult to make a selection from this side because that pops out. So I have all of that to deal with. You can, if that's a problem, make a selection from the right-hand edge. But either way, once you've got your selection, you now have these checkboxes to very quickly deselect what you don't want to change, which is kind of cool. Oh, Carol's has updated. Excellent, excellent. I just thought I'd mention it. If you are updating things, I mean, we've got tables with thousands and thousands of items in. If you are doing that, it is useful. But for things like dates and stuff, I would still do it my way. Same as I do with this here. When I'm adding things in, like the ship 30, where I've got 30 dates and I've got 30 items that start with day 1, I just copy and paste it from a spreadsheet. And you can now actually copy and paste it in here, which makes life a whole lot easier. So when I've decided what I'm doing with the captain's table, that's probably what I'll do. But there was a bit of a snafu earlier in the week. I was working my way through the onboarding, and I realised that my onboarding and the onboarding didn't match. And I realised that I had an old version of the course guide. So then I had to start again. Oh, it's been one of those weeks, but it appears it's been one of those weeks for everybody. So there you go. That was that one. I think we're going to need the browser, but we'll get it out of the way. And we will head into here. So, why aren't you moving? Because you want to play with my mind, don't you? Right. There was an update to Vivaldi. Not much of an update, I'm going to be honest with you, in terms of the number of things updated. But if you understand one of them, life might be easier. So the first thing they've added is the ability to manage multiple windows, which is in here. Now, we always had a window panel. The window panel would show you what pages were open in your browser, what they were called, and sometimes they would have a number next to them as well. But you could have multiple windows open, and that window panel was one window panel per open window. So if you had 5 of them, you'd have to go from window to window to manage them. And what they've done now is it's not the window panel, it's the Windows panel, which I will show you. Vivaldi has a built-in mail client and calendar and feeds. When that first came out, installed them because at the time you could opt for one of 3 install types. Just the essentials, which is, it's a browser. There was the one that I went for, which had a lot of the features, except the mail, the calendar and the feeds. And the reason that I installed it without the mail, the calendar and the feeds was it didn't work. The mail client with my Gmail account didn't work. It was a known issue, but they never actually said if it was because mine's hosted on an enterprise Google account, so it works fine with other Google accounts, or whether there was something else at play. But it didn't work, so I decided to leave it alone. It wasn't broken. I know it is giving you an email client and a calendar client built into the browser, but I didn't personally see that much different than leaving my mail open in a tab. So let me know if you use the mail, the calendar and the feeds. Basically, the improvements are they've given you more shortcut keys, and there were toggle keys as well. So you can automatically mark things as read, but you can also mark something as spam or say it's not spam in the shortcuts. So those were basically what the differences were. I thought the most important was the window panel. So let's bring this back. Right, I have 2 windows open at the moment. One of them is all the things I have open pretty much all the time. And there's this one here. So I have it that I can, and these are my shortcuts. They make sense to me. It's the list on the left, which is the open tabs, which most people have them across the top. And on the right-hand side, there's all the other panels. Now, by default, those panels are on the left and the tabs are at the top. But I have the tabs on the left and the panels on the right. Because of where they are, it makes sense to me to hide and show them with control and square bracket. So that is on and off with the control and square bracket. And the other side is also with the square bracket. So I can do that. Now, why I've got them rigged up like that is anywhere that I have a left and a right sidebar. So Obsidian. So I've got Vivaldi, I've got Obsidian, I've got Affinity Publisher, Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo. All of them use the same shortcut keys for toggling on and off the left and the right panel. And that way I don't have to think. I don't like to have to think. So that's why I have them configured like that. So obviously tabs are on that side. And on this side, we have everything else. But this is the one that we're looking at. So this is now Windows, although it still says window, but I have updated, honestly. So if I show you what we've actually got here, we've got 3 things in here. The first window is the one that I'm live streaming with. So that's on the other screen. This window is the batch processing one. And then I've got all the tabs that I've closed. So if I open this up, you can see I don't have any pinned tabs in here, but in this one I do. So the majority of my tabs are pinned apart from the live streaming. All right. So they're in there. This allows you to move these things around. So you couldn't do anything like that before. So if I open up a new tab on here, I'm not going to do the news thing, Mike. Do you remember when I did that and we found out Michael Jackson had died? No one was concentrating. We'll do something else. Oh, what shall we do? I don't have much on here. Oh, it'll have to be the news then, won't it? Right, let's go to the news sites. Oh, let's do the newspapers on Sky. There we go, because they were today's newspapers. Right, so now what's happening is in here, you can see I've got this pin tab, which is batch processing, and I've got this one, the newspapers, which is not pinned. And you can see that over here, which is why I have the tabs on the left. I don't want, well, I do want to have pin tabs at the top, and I have the pin tabs in the same place all the time. Anything else gets opened underneath, so I want the active tab to be a slightly darker colour, and I have this separator so I know which are the pin tabs and which are not the pin tabs. So let's go in here and let's open up another one. Let's do the BBC. There's the BBC. So what's happening over here is you can see the pin tabs are here and my 2 others are here. The active one has a dot next to it. If I had just opened this, if I had closed Vivaldi and I'd opened it, some of them would be in italic. And if you see a title in italic, it means it's not loaded. So the idea of this is that we can move things around. So I could take this BBC page and I could actually put it in a different window. So now in here, I've only got 2 tabs, but my other one has opened up over here. So if I bring that on so you can see it, it's moved it to the other window. So basically it gives you window management from this panel without the other tabs, the other windows, even being, you could minimize them if you wanted. So if I wanted to take this one back and put it above the Sky News one, there you go. And in fact, it's pinned it at the top. So I will put that underneath like that. Now, the other thing that you can do in here, and again, I'm not sure that I would use it, but I will explain why. If you've got a lot of tabs open, you may not know, especially if you close these up, you may not know in which window the tab that you're looking for is. But if I were to type in there, Sky, it opens it and it shows you that I've got this one in the closed tabs and Sky News Live and other stuff as well. And in this particular window, I've got, which is saying the BBC is at the front, so it's this window here. There's the Sky News one. And all I need to do is double click it to get to it. So now you can search, and you can search across windows. You know, all of this previously was on a window by window basis, and now it's not. Now it's across windows. Now, why would I not be overly bothered by that? And that's because of something we looked at a few weeks ago, which is if I bring this up and I type VIV, because I've got, so we're looking at Raycast, because I've got the Vivaldi extension installed, that lets me search through the tabs, and I've kind of got used to doing that. It means I don't even have to open that window panel to be able to do it. But your mileage may vary. We've now got lots of different ways to be able to do this. So if I type that and I put in BBC, it'll have hopefully it'll find it. There we go. And all I need to do is press enter and it will bring that one to the front. So that to me is better than this. But obviously Vivaldi have no control over whether you've got Raycast installed and whether you want to search it that way. So this way is the official way. This is what they've provided for you. I think that is more use than it was. Although for the panel, as far as I'm concerned, the panel's biggest use is for other things. Like when I was using Roam a lot, I had Roam embedded in the side. So once it's loaded itself, that was one of the problems with Roam, the speed. Especially when I'm going live, but there you go. Right, I could do whatever I'm doing and I could have that up there where I could make notes. And I've also got in there Wikipedia, MacBites FM, WhatsApp in there as well, used to use that. I've got the calendar in there, I've got Dropbox in there. So those are the kind of things I use the panel for. I'm not sure I would have that panel open all the time. I think it just encourages you to have far too many tabs open, and I don't need any help in that regard. I can open up hundreds of tabs. Oh, one of the best features in Vivaldi is the ability to save a session and just close everything down for a bit of breathing space and then go back to it later. I find that useful. But who has used that before? Who would like to use that now? Who thinks that's a good idea? I still think Vivaldi is by far the best browser out there. By far. Right, so that was the update this week. Like I say, it was tiny, that update. Of more significance to me was the fact they fixed stuff at last. I was having a problem where I typed something in and it didn't return it as a frequently visited site. And if it's something like Audible or Amazon, trust me, I'm there every day. And it just wasn't coming up. It wouldn't load Twitter either. Anyway, one of the things they fixed, they did put down there that the address bar issues had been fixed. So I gave it a go, and it worked. So it looks like that's fixed. So we got any questions on that?
We have. From Patricia. Do you think Vivaldi's taking more resources or memory lately? I have 2 Vivaldi icon/apps in the preferences system settings.
I don't think I've got 2 icons in there.
She says she wishes she could share a screenshot.
I'm not seeing that, no. What I would say is it's going to depend on what you've loaded into it. So if you've got a runaway tab, I mean, there are occasions when stuff stops working and I decide that I'm going to restart it and then everything runs better. So I would keep, as few open tabs as you possibly can. The same is true of any browser. But I've not had it go crazy, no, not like Chrome. Chrome can do its own thing and does frequently. The only reason that I use Chrome is for watching YouTube videos because they're 4K. But other than that, I don't particularly bother with it.
Next question.
Yeah.
From Jamie. Any idea when Vivaldi for iOS is coming?
They said this year. So fingers crossed they mean this year. I wish they would, because I've been using Firefox. And I've used Firefox for so many years on iOS. I did contemplate switching to Brave. And the reason was they put in into Firefox, some kind of weirdness. It was basically saying, do you want an account? Do you want this? Have you ticked this box? Every time I opened it. And I thought, right, I'm going away. And the other thing it wanted me to do was to log in to speed dial when I'd already told it to remember the password and not bother me. But that seems to have eased off slightly. I vented my spleen in a mail and it seems to have eased off. But I would love to have even a fraction of the features in the desktop version on iOS. Absolutely, I would. So fingers crossed this year. What else have we got?
Patience says, can you set up the fingerprint scan function in Vivaldi like you can in Safari?
I don't believe you can, because it needs access to stuff at system level that Apple won't open up. As far as I know, no, you can't. I see there's a thing here 5 minutes ago about this Jim Ratcliffe wanting to buy the club as well. United's up for sale. Do you think we could buy it? You know, with like £3.50.
With me tuppence halfpenny.
Yeah.
Timmy could buy it.
We could. Oh no, I don't want Timmy involved.
Anyway, no. That's the questions.
He'd strip it back to its essence. There'd be no seats or anything.
This is true. The seats would be the thinnest piece of aluminum.
They would. Oh, Carol says, have I tried Arc? I gave it a try. I did. One of our lovely MacBiters gave me a link and I tried it, but it's so different in concept that I thought you would have to approach it as if it was a completely new app and it just happened to browse the web, rather than think, how does a bookmark work? How does this work? How does that work? Because it is that different. But when I'm feeling 100%, I will give it a good go, and we'll have a demo of it and see how we go with it.
Another question from Patricia. So why does Vivaldi have Chrome files in my library?
It's based on Chromium. There are different types of engines. There's the Mozilla engine, the Chromium engine. And for Vivaldi to be as compatible as possible in terms of extensions and things, it's compatible with Chrome. So it wouldn't be surprising that if there were Chrome entries in there. All of these extensions, I only have two that are there, but I have CopyTab Info, which is a Chrome extension, and Readwise, which is a Chrome extension. So I would expect I would see mentions of Chrome because of the extensions. Do we have anything else?
Carol says, how is it different?
How is what different?
I don't know. Arc, possibly.
Arc is like an app rather than a browser. One of the things that makes me smile with it is when you open some tabs and then you open some more tabs, as you do, it runs round behind you closing the tabs, which is like, what? Don't touch my tabs. But that's one of the things it does. It's more like an app. It does a lot more than just a browser. It really is a different ideology for a browser. So I do think you would need to approach it with a really open mind as like, oh, this lets me browse the web, but it also does this, this and this. Just the way it is. It's more like an app. Now, I think for me, the way I use Vivaldi, it's more like an app to me. It's more like something that I live in because, if I look at the window that's off screen, I've got the YouTube studio in it. I've got my mail in it. I've got my calendar in it. I've got all the Notion pages open that I need. It is to me more than a browser. Arc have just pushed that a bit more than Vivaldi have. Vivaldi are just saying we're the best browser. Arc are saying we're beyond a browser. But beyond that, I think we'd have to look at it. What else have we got?
That's it.
Yes, Ken's saying it's built with the open source Chromium code. So yeah, it's a Chrome-based browser, for which I'm grateful, because that way the extensions work. No browser would work for me without the extensions that I rely on. So, the only two that are there are the CopyTab Info, which, to be honest, I could probably hide now, because I've made my own code to make that work, and the Readwise one. But I do have others that are installed. There's a whole range of them installed. It's just I use them so infrequently that I don't bother having them showing. I've been to a couple of webinars this week, and people have been demonstrating things like how they do a certain thing. And the idea is that these people are like guiding you how you should maybe do a certain thing. And the problem is, as I look at the certain things that they're doing, I'm like, how can you work with 3,000 tabs open? And another thing they've got is the bookmark bar at the top. And they've got it set so it only shows the icon. And there's like 9 million of them. And I'm like, I can't think straight looking at that. What? And they're busy saying, so I'm all organised and I've done this and I've done that. And I'm like, but look at the browser. So I try and keep mine incredibly minimal. I mean, I probably wouldn't have the right sidebar open. I'm actually experimenting with not having the left sidebar open. Because if I can use Raycast to search the tabs, why do I need to see the tabs? I'll report back next week how that went. Right, is there anything else we've got?
No.
Okay. Right, let's get that off screen then. Why isn't this working when I press the button? That's better. Okay, so now we've seen Vivaldi. Oh, excitement! The Affinity beta program. The official Affinity beta program. That's the link you need. QR code at the bottom. What it is the official beta program from Affinity. It is beta versions of all 3 applications on all 3 platforms. So it doesn't matter if you are iOS only or Windows or Mac, or whether you only have one app or you've got all 3. So once you've been to that link, that will take you here. And it is an invitation to join. Now, there's a couple of caveats to this. Currently, it's 2.1 that's available to beta test. The link where it says 2.1 features and improvements is the place to go once you've signed up. They've also fixed bugs, which they've said. Who can participate? Well, anyone who owns version 2 of the apps. Now, that does not mean that you need all of them, but you can only beta test the ones you actually own. So if you only have Designer for iPad, then that is the only one you will be able to beta test. But I know the majority of us have got the universal license, so you'll be able to have whatever you like. So download the lot. They are installed as completely separate applications, so you do not have to worry about overwriting your version of the app. I now have 3 versions of every app installed. I've got version 1, version 2, the official release, and the beta versions. So none of them are interfering with any of the others. Be aware, though, that things like assets and stuff, your mileage may vary. It depends how they were installed as to whether they will come across or not. One thing they sometimes do with beta software is because it may have in it some extra features. On occasion, the beta version saves to a file format that you cannot open in older apps. I have had that in the beta before. I'm imagining with this public beta program, they'll try and steer away from that. Because as it says here, can you use it for production work? I mean, that's really up to you. Yes, you can, but as it says, documents saved in beta versions may not. And that then carries on, be backwards compatible. So you do have to think about that. There is a dedicated forum for feedback, which is how you do it. And to take part, you need to actually go through a sign-up process. So the sign-up process is to click Join the Beta program. In essence, it takes you through a purchase at 0 cost. So it gets added to your account. You get an invoice number, and the invoice will have on it all of the apps to which you are entitled based on your licensing for version 2. So for me, that was Windows, Mac, iOS for all 3 apps. When it comes to installing them, you will be able to tell the difference because it is called Affinity Designer 2 Beta. The icon is slightly different and so forth for the others. So Photo has beta on the end and the beta logo, and so does Publisher. So let's have a look. I have not even run this. I've left it in peace so I can show you how it actually works. Now, somewhere in here, I had a page open, and that's it there. There we go. So what I've got in this page, which I'll drag out to here, hopefully, this is where you get taken if you click that Show Me the New Features. So it takes you out to the forum, and Ash, who is in charge at Affinity, gives you a rundown of what's new. So the top set of features here is on all platforms. The next set is desktop there. And finally, you have the iPad features and improvements. And I know one of the questions I have had endlessly since it came out was, can I view the rulers? Where are the rulers? And it mentions main view rulers have been added. So you can stop asking, at last it's there. I felt terrible saying it wasn't there, but now it is. So these are the main features that they've added. Some of the stuff for me that I thought, oh yes, was things in here to do with opening layers and closing layers. But for instance, you couldn't rename by a menu. You had to click and then, click for just the right amount of time to make it editable. And also the where's the shortcut? Where is it? Here it is here. These two, where you can option click to duplicate and option click to expand and collapse. I have been waiting for a shortcut key for that for years. There is one, I think, to collapse, but not expand. So I shall be giving that one a run for its money. But all of the things you see in here, you can then drill down into. So if we say this one to expand and collapse, it takes you out and that is then put there. People then list, if there's the known issues, and people give their opinion on it. And obviously they're putting in here videos and all kinds of stuff with it. So if you are experiencing issues with it, then go into here and actually have a look what other people are saying, and maybe you can add to the conversation. But the idea is that all of those features have like a dedicated space that you can discuss them, which I think is a really useful way of doing it, rather than just lumping the lot together and then people posting on that. So, shall we actually see what one of them looks like? I've deliberately not done this. So let's have a look at Publisher. Now you can see what I've got there. I've typed Publisher and I've got my 3 versions of the app. The top one is Publisher 2, the next one is Publisher version 1, and there is the beta coming in at number 3. So it may or may not give me some kind of little dialogue I've got to confirm. All I've got on the other side is it's verifying at the moment. And the minute I try and move it, there you go, it's verifying. I installed it yesterday. Oh, hang on. Go on, you know you want to open. You do. Right, then I've got this one. Are you sure you want to open it? That's courtesy of Timmy. Thank you for that, Timmy. So I will open that. And what's the betting it opens on a different screen? I knew you would. I knew you would. It's now thinking about it on the other side. Oh, and it wants me to activate my license or it's not going to work. So now I need to do that as well. Can I do that? Oh, I'd have to go and find it, wouldn't I? Oh, no. Okay, I know what I'll do. I will switch you. So let's switch you to there. And then I'll go and get my password. Crying out loud. I'd have expected that to pick it up. Oh, now that was amazing. You know when something works and you're stunned? Yeah. One password actually...
Don't get that feeling very often.
Yeah, no, I'm going to enjoy it. One password actually asked me to use my watch, which saved me writing my 80-odd character password in. Oh, right, okay, what do I need? I need my Serif account is what I need, apparently. So I'll get this keyed up and log in. Okay, let's get in there. I left this deliberately, I thought, oh, it'd be far easier if I do that. Right, let's see if it works. Right, I have a password in there. Right, so let's see if I can activate it. If not, there'll be tears before bedtime. Yay! Right, I'll tell it to link it. And no, I wouldn't like to do that. No, I wouldn't, not at all. If it's all the same with you. No. Okay, so I'm in here. It actually doesn't look that much different, including the icons up here. They're not saying that it's a beta or anything. But I will create the file. I will get that full screen. You can see there is a difference at the top with the Affinity Publisher 2, and it's got a beta after it. One thing to think about is if you have any shortcuts or anything like that in apps like Keyboard Maestro, they won't work in here unless you add this particular app to the Keyboard Maestro configuration, because it's got a different name, just the way that it works. So the thing that I was interested in most was if I add things into here, and I've got multiple things over there, and I nest some of these into groups, can I then expand these? And it was option, wasn't it? Okay, not if I click on the name of it by the look of it. And not if I click that. What if I click on the thumbnail? No, that zooms me in. I'm not impressed. That was what I wanted. That was the only thing that I wanted. Let me have a look in here. I've got an expand and collapse, but I don't think... So yes, it does work, but I want that on a shortcut key. That's what I want. Let's have a look up there. I can expand. That's text though. No, so I still can't do it from a shortcut key. That's annoying. But at least I can control it in here with right clicking. But one issue for me is, and I know my screen is very small at the moment, but this is getting unmanageable. It's scrolling off. So, I'll tell you how I get on with that in the week. But it's things like that, I mean, they're nuances, aren't they? Does that bother anybody else, or is it just me? It's particularly annoying in Designer when you've got lots of items on a canvas. So that would make a big difference for me, but there you go. Right, what else have we got that's absolutely thrilling in here? Probably not much. Those two, yes. Blend mode shortcut keys. I mean, I don't know anybody who would use a keyboard shortcut for a blend mode. Because let's be honest, what do we all do with blend modes? No idea which one to use. I'll just scroll through them all and I'll find one that looks right. That's how you work, isn't it? I taught you well, Padawan.
I was just going to say that.
What else have we got? Vector fill floods and things like that. Has any of these been missing from your life until now? What are you most excited about? I reckon people will like the rulers being added. I didn't miss them, I'll be honest with you. Under the iPad features, the one that I wanted brought back, because it was there and they took it...
Kim says that's exactly how she uses blend modes.
Exactly, that's what we all do with blend modes. Because, you might think... I mean, I am probably to the level that I know if I want it darker or lighter, obviously, and I would start with that. But, some things like... there's a negative one, there's an inverse one. You could have something like one of your posters and you're looking at it and you think, don't think that one's going to make any difference. And then you scroll through them and you're like, actually, that one really works. And you would never have used it in a million years. So that's how we all use blend mode. So shortcuts for that, total waste of time. Give us something like, this happened this week. I didn't actually update PowerPoint. PowerPoint updates itself. I know, I live on the edge. But I actually have it where it updates itself. And it was comical. It updated. And I then used I'm assuming everybody knows about this, but you might not. If you're in here and you're thinking, I'm looking for one of the windows or something like that. So say quick effects. And you can't remember where it is. You only ever have to remember one shortcut key. And that shortcut key activates the help and puts your cursor in the search box. And then you just search. So you never have to remember beyond the key to do that, which on a Mac is Command Shift. Hang on, what are you doing up there? Right. Command Shift /. And that focuses you on there. From there, you can type in what you're looking for. You don't even have to go to it, although it will show you where that thing is. And this is the same in any app. It's at system level on the Mac. And I absolutely love that. That, to me, is fabulous. So there I am in PowerPoint doing that. And I typed in stock, and I wanted it to open the stock images panel. Nothing. Nothing even came up. It was as though it had no idea there was a stock image panel there at all. So I'm like, what? And it took me 10 minutes to find it because I've no idea where it is. I mean, it was just in the menu. And obviously it wasn't in the menu. So I then had to hunt around the ribbon. So 10 minutes later, and a lot of bad words, I'd found it. The next thing I looked at was in my PowerPoint ribbon bar, above the ribbon, in the orange bit at the top. There was a gap. And I thought, why is there a gap? There wasn't a gap yesterday. And what had happened was they'd taken away the icon for one of the commands and just left it blank. It still worked as long as you knew which blank bit of the menu to click. So you see, like this little head that we have here. PowerPoint has a little head like that. It's for feedback. They got feedback, both barrels of it they did. Couldn't believe it the next day when the stock image panel was back in the menu. I pushed all the right buttons with that. I said it's shocking for accessibility. You know, I have accessibility turned on. I can't get to the stock panel. They fixed that in record speed. And today, when I opened it, the icon was back on my missing button. So, yeah, liking that. You do have to keep them in line with all of this stuff, though. So, do we have any questions about that? Have you all joined it? It doesn't cost anything. Apart from frustration, probably, if you're trying to use it and something isn't working properly. But it will give you faster access to all of the new features. So who has signed up for that?
I think Peter said he'd signed up, but he hasn't installed it yet.
Oh, Peter says he started closing all the panels and opening them as required. I've got, if we're talking about Publisher, what I do in Publisher is I have like workspaces. One of them would be like data merge because there's so many extra panels. And the other one is tables. And I have those on my third monitor, or second monitor, I guess. Because again, there's just so many of them and you need to have them all open at once. But yeah, there's a lot of interface, isn't there? And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking none of my customizations have come through. So I'd have to set those up again. So I'd be grumpy, wouldn't I? It's just so annoying. You know, there should be like a one-click, zip everything up, and then I put it in another version of the app and you just make it work. One of those, that would be great. But no, so much of this is manual. But yeah, I think when you're working, it's easy to open extra panels and then just leave them lying around. You might get used to where they are. I mean, I've started, I never used to do this, but there's a gap up here. So we've got colour swatches and stroke. And I've started in there, opening up and leaving open. Where are you? Tell me you're in here. The fields panel. Because, do you remember when we were doing that thing for you and you opened it in a browser and it had totally the wrong title? It doesn't take the PDF title from the title of the document.
Yeah.
It takes it from in here, the title there. And because the fields panel is never open unless you're doing a data merge, it's so easy to forget. So I thought, well, you know, yes, there's document statistics in there and other kind of stuff, and data merge would be in there. But I'd have a data merge view. So I thought if I take the fields and I pop it in there next to stroke, it'll remind me to make sure that the title's right. So I've started doing that. But, you know, you come to a new version like this and it's hard to remember what you had set up before. It's a good time to look at what you've got set up and decide whether you want to stick with it or not. You know, maybe it would be a good time to prune things. And I always try and do that. You know, if there's a new version of anything, I try and do that. But I would have to regenerate all of the workspaces and everything, which is just a major pain. But it's only a beta. Obviously, when the real version comes out, it won't overwrite this beta. It will overwrite the normal version, the standard version. And that will have all your workflows in it and stuff. Just back them up anyway, you know, just in case. Not that I don't trust them, but I don't trust them. Right, we got any questions on that?
No.
Okay. let's get that there. No, we don't need to save that. Now we're actually into it. We don't need to save that. And I will get rid of that. Oh, we have freebies. I picked a good one this week. It's a font. But it's Golden Future 3D PNG letters. So I guess actually it's not a font. It's 3D lettering. But I thought for something in the technology world, that's actually quite cool. It looks like a gold-plated motherboard. Mind you, Johnny I's moved on, hasn't he? He's making teapots now. Oh, don't get me going. So yeah, I thought this one was pretty decent. They are very large and the entire alphabet is included. Including, I think numbers are there. I think the numbers are there. Full alphabet and characters, so yes, it should be. So that is the URL you need to go to for that. And I'm assuming you're putting that in the chat as we go.
Chat, yes. When Excellent. It's caught up. Yeah, there we go.
Right, okay then. So, the Obsidian canvas. So far, we've looked at Obsidian as taking text-based notes in Markdown format. But just before Christmas, they came out with a feature called the canvas. This was hugely significant because apps like DevonThink are great for text, great Markdown support. And yes, you could take a mind map from somewhere else and you could put that in DevonThink. There was also apps starting to appear that were visually based. So one of the most well known is Scrintl. And Scrintl worked on the principle of index cards. But the difference between that and other note-taking apps was that behind the index cards, there was a limitless canvas for you to place the cards on. And you could create links between them. So for visual thinkers, it was amazing. I think I put myself down for access to it. And when it came to it, without even so much as a 1 hour trial, I got the mail that said you're in. And that'll be £60, thank you. And I thought, just a minute, I've not even seen it yet. I also didn't really want to move again, I'll be honest. And when I say move, it's a bit like Rome. I moved to Obsidian, but Notion's been there for a while, so I use both. So I was quite jealous of the visual layout bit, and that is what the canvas is for. So let's have a look at it. Right, I did open that, but that's where's the other one? I've got 2 vaults open. We've got our demo vault, so let's use our demo vault. Right, so way back when we started this, months ago, we looked at plugins, and there was community plugins and there was core plugins. So what we have in here, if I bring up preferences, is here are the core plugins. And the canvas is a core plugin. And so if you have no interest in this whatsoever, you can turn it off. Now, it won't bother you if you leave it turned on, but you can actually turn it off. Now, some of the core plugins are turned off by default. So if you remember, we talked about the audio recorder and we said that that was one that was turned off. What were the other ones? The format converter's turned off because that's something when you're importing. So it's something you turn on, use, and then turn off. The majority of them are turned on, but some aren't. So the slides aren't. The unique note creator isn't turned on. But the canvas is one of the ones that is turned on. And you've got the little cog next to it for the options. Now, remembering that that cog there is the same as going to the core plugins and looking for canvas and clicking on it. But we'll go this way. Right. You create a default or specify a default location for the new canvases. So I've just said the vault folder. Probably, to be honest, I'd put it in the inbox. That's where it should be. Right, default mouse wheel behaviour. So does it pan or does it zoom? Now, I would say Give it a go before you decide what to set up in there. If you create a canvas and you start using your mouse wheel and it feels wrong, then go in and change it. But if it doesn't feel wrong, then stick with it. It depends how you think about using your mouse wheel. Now, my mouse does have a wheel, a physical wheel. It's a Logitech, but the Apple mouse, I don't know what the Apple mouse would make of it. I had to lose my Magic Mouse because the sides of it were too sensitive when I was editing audio in Hindenburg. It would just zoom off, like 3 hours away from where I'm trying to edit. So my mouse does have a wheel. It will behave as if it's got a wheel with a Magic Mouse. How many of you use a Magic Mouse? And how many have just had enough of it? Because I'm in the have enough category. But you can change the behaviour. You can change what happens when you use command and drag. So do you want to show a menu, add a card, add a note from the vault, add media from the vault, add a web page, create a group. So I've left most of these at the default, to be honest. So do you want to see the card label? I've got that set to always, but you can have only when you hover over it or never. Then there is a grid. So when we get in and we look at this canvas, there is a grid behind it. And some people, if you think of Scrivener and the way Scrivener works, Scrivener has a corkboard. And the corkboard view was very rigid. It was a certain number of cards across, a certain number of cards high, a certain size for the card. And people were clamouring for a more flexible corkboard. And Scrivener put one in. And that's really what you've got here. If you are I want them all to snap together, line up like little soldiers, then the snap to grid will work. But you can turn that off if you want to. I do prefer it snapping to the grid. I don't want like one card to be 2 pixels out because my OCD would kick in, wouldn't it? We'd be here all day while I line them up. So I leave that turned on. You can also have them where they are snapping to nearby objects. So any design app has that option, and you have that option in here. And then you've got the zoom threshold for hiding the card content. That will make much more sense when we see it. But basically, you will reach a point where you're zooming in and out that you wouldn't be able to read the content anyway. So what it does is it replaces the content with a title. And that way you can at least see what the card is. So those are the options that you have for this canvas idea. Right, on the other window, I'm contemplating showing you a real canvas, if I can find it. There we go. So we're going to go into here and create a canvas, but this vault that we're looking at here is my real vault. And that is a canvas. So you can see in the background, you've got the dots and you've got these cards. Now, these are not actually cards, they are proper notes. And I'm making a distinction between a card and a note because there is a distinction between a card and a note. At the bottom, you can drag to add a card, which is blank. It's a blank placeholder. But you can also drag to add a note from the vault. So there is a distinction between the two. And you can also drag media from the vault as well. Now, you can probably, if I zoom in here, you see there is a twang. At that point, it tells me that it's ship 30 for 30, day 24, 25, 6, 7, 8, 9, and day 30. But as I continue to zoom in, you start to see the content. So if I bring that in as big as I can and move it slightly, never quite sure which one to drag with this, or is it that? That's it. You can see all of it. So all I was doing with this is not an exciting canvas. This was just me, where I was coming into the last week and I was exhausted. And I was like, okay, these 7 here were probably written way in hand by comparison to the first 23. And what I wanted to do was get them into the order that I wanted to post them. So you can see the last one says I've saved the best till last. So I knew that that one was going to be on the right hand side. But this is a very basic canvas, just letting me line those notes up There's no connections, there's no colour coding, there's no magic going on. It's just, these were some notes. Each one of these notes was a daily essay, and I just wanted to put them on here and change the order. And once I changed the order, I then went through and changed the names. So I've got them in the order that I wanted to post them from left to right. So that's the kind of thing that you can do in here. And you can see all of these are the same size. The gap between them is the same. I'm organised, but that's just me because I'm crazy. Right, so let's get that out of the way and see how you set this up from scratch. So first of all, you will need to make a new canvas. Now, one of the options that you had in here for the canvas was, or wasn't it? No, it wasn't. I know where it was. It was when we're in the core plugins. In the core plugins, you not only enable it with the slider and set the options with the options cog, but you have a plus, and that enables you to create a hotkey to make a canvas. Now, I'm not going to be making that many canvases. I'm not going to be doing this on a daily basis, I wouldn't have thought. I would probably create a canvas maybe for a project, something that I use the term brainstorming, but that's not politically correct anymore, is it?
Thought shower.
A thought shower. I knew Mike would know. But they brainwashed him at work. Or is that thought washed him? Whatever. Right. But I can see that I would create it for a particular project. It could be as simple as a blog post, or it could be as complicated as a 6-month project. But I can imagine that that's how I would do it. Now, I may decide to add a hotkey. The chances of me remembering what that hotkey is, slim to non-existent. So I'm not going to go the hotkey route. But that means if I'm sat here and I'm like, I need to make a canvas, how do I do that? Now, Obsidian is an Electron app, so there's nothing in the menu in terms of features of the app. But we do have Command and P. So if we type in there canvas, Command P, canvas, and that
Kim
will make
says
you...
brainwashing's not PC. I learn lots here.
That's been like that for a good few years, hasn't it? Yeah, you're not allowed to say... Now, there is a good reason, isn't there? Who was the body that sorted that out?
I can't remember.
Was it Scope?
Oh, it could have been.
I think there's a charity in the UK called Scope, and apparently a brainstorm is something that I have no idea what the illness is, but that's what they call it, and it's poor form to use that. But I keep saying brainstorm because I can never remember the alternative. But it's thought shower. Do you know there'll be someone complaining somewhere about that shortly? So now you know, Kim. But I reckon in the States you're not quite as sensitive as we are here. Although there is the Tiger Woods thing, isn't there? Let's leave it alone. Walk away. So that's how you can create a canvas. Now that Command and P can be used for pretty much anything. So if I type in date and I press enter, it will put the current date in for me. So if there is a shortcut key to remember, it's Command and P. If you use Notion, you'll already know about Command and P, won't you? Which is the search. So Command and P, pretty useful. Let's put canvas in, press enter. We now have a new canvas.
Epilepsy.
Is it?
I've just Googled it.
Oh, right. In that case, it's not Scope, is it? I don't know. I just do as I'm told. In fact, I've just given up speaking to people. It's far easier. That way I don't offend anybody. Right, so here's our canvas. So, first thing to do, give it a name. I must admit, this is probably me. A woman of a certain age, obviously. So I know it's a canvas. I tend to put blah, 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 canvas. And that way, when I'm searching for it, I'll type in canvas and I'll find it. So, what am I going to do this about? Oh, we could do the next ship 30, couldn't we? Or we could do Monday. That would be handy. Right, we're doing planner pages for teachers in Affinity Publisher on Monday. But I'm going to put canvas at the end, and that way, when I search for canvas, it's going to find it. Right, so this is the kind of thing I would actually do with it. So, if I had any content already in my notes, I would add the notes first. That's just me. But this is a demo account and I don't have any notes in there, so I'll leave that alone. But what I do want to do is create some kind of running order. So with no notes, I'm going to drag and add a card. So it's blank. This is not a note in terms of it doesn't have a title. It's not saved in the vault. It only exists on this canvas. So let's say with this one, I want this to be a vertical. Oh, we don't spell it like that. Good grief. A vertical planner. Vertical weekly planner for teachers. Right. So that's one thing that I want to do. And then I can just carry on adding these. Now, if you're thinking this is starting to look like a very flexible mind map, you're not a million miles away. In fact, if you've ever used Scapple from Literature and Latte, which is a complement to Scrivener, it's very similar. So this one would be horizontal weekly planner. Honestly, can't even get a capital in. Right. Now, I'd probably do the vertical first. I'm going to move these across. And as you can see, as I'm moving them, I've got all the points highlighted telling me that that is correctly lined up because it knows I'm OCD. Right, so those are two things that I want to cover. I would then need to do something different with that in terms of I could do it, but it would be very manual. So now I want to include data merge of a weekly planner, which is slightly different than the data merges we've done before. So I wouldn't particularly be doing that with the vertical or the horizontal. It would probably be shared between them. So let's put more of a space in there, pop that in there so it all lines up. So I will be explaining the layout of this one first, and then this one, and then I would be going on to this. And this would then feed back into these, because what I would do is retrospectively, I would make them automated by hooking them up to the data. So how do I represent that on here? Well, this is going to be part one. And as I hover over the bottom, or the sides, or the top, I get points that I can drag somewhere else, and it puts an arrow on it, and the two are connected. So even if I move this, that connection is going to remain there. So I'm starting on the weekly and then I'm moving on to this. From here, I'm going to go on to the data merge. So I may move that a bit. And from the data merge, I am going to go back to the weekly. It would be nice if that went up there a bit, but I don't think it's going to. So I'll pop it on there. And I'll also explain how we can wire it up to that one as well. So that gives me enough text, you know, vertical weekly planner, horizontal weekly planner, and the data merge weekly planner gives me enough text so I know what's going on. And I know I'm starting on the vertical, I'm moving on to the horizontal, I'm moving then to the data merge, and then I'm going back to the vertical and back to the horizontal. That actually tells me a lot, and I haven't got any text in there really yet. Now, I can also put on here, so let's have a look. Right, this one here. As I hover over it, we can see it highlights. It gets the line itself actually gets a little bit thicker, and the outside of it looks like it's had its ready break. And if you're in the States, you have no idea what that is. It was an advert in the late 80s where if you'd had your porridge for breakfast, you left the house. Was it an orange glow?
I thought it was a green glow.
I thought it was a green glow, but am I thinking of the Green Man? Find out what colour the glow was, Mike.
Is it Ready Break?
Ready Break
glow. Oh, it was orange, you're right.
Thank you. I thought it was for warmth. So we must both have been thinking about the Green Man, which is something entirely different. So, Ready Break, the Ready Break glow. Right, what I can do on that is double click it, and now I can put some text on it to explain what the link is between the two. So in this case, it's automation. So I'm going to automate it that way. So you can see with this, I mean, even just so far, this is pretty good. But you can take it further. So this in here. Right, one of the things I'm going to have to think about in here, and I want that to be the title, so I'll put that at the top. One of the things that I need to think about in here is I'm going to need a data source that is only Monday to Friday. And all the data sources I've used for the planner pages that I've done have been 7 days a week. So I'm going to need some notes on how I'm actually doing that. So I don't need to leave this as just one of these like nodes, one of these cards. I really want that to be a note. And luckily in here, you can edit it. You can go in and you can edit it. And we should be able to turn this into a note. So convert to file. Right, at this point, because although it's there and you can see it and it's got content, it doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a name because it doesn't live in the vault, so it doesn't need a name. But at this point, I need to give it a name. So weekly planner data merge. And at this point, nothing will change on the canvas apart from the size of the text in it, because it's the name of it, which you don't have to have shown if you don't want. But it will exist in the vault, which previously it didn't. So if we go into the preferences and we go to the canvas one, where is the one about the card label? Let's say never and see the difference there. That's not doing what I thought it should be doing. Oh no. That's the name that pops up over here. So we don't actually need to see that, do we? But we're stuck with it. I'm sure there's a way to turn it off. Right, let's say always and go back in. Right, that's where you see it. It's that it's turning off, not the content. Could I change that in some way? Here's hoping I can. But there's the text I had in it before. The text it's added is the name of it. So the name is now in there. And what I want to do is remind myself how we're going to do this. So data from Excel. And we're going to do a custom autofill, aren't we, Mike? I've annoyed him immensely this week. I think I've broken Excel about 20 times, haven't I? Now, when I say broken, it just doesn't work the way I want it to. Yes, it was already broken. I just discovered it was so. And Mike spent the entire week with, well, if you did this and you did that, yeah, I just want it to work. So I'm putting information in here. I think I've got a file called weekdays, so I'll put that in. So an X on the end now, hasn't it? So this is the kind of extra information that I can put in. And I could do this with all of these as well. But I am also going to need to do other stuff here. So I want to do some worksheets. So worksheets. I may want to put something generic in about worksheets. But I also want to do specific worksheets. So I'm going to do a handwriting worksheet. And I think I had a maths one. Right, so maths worksheet. Right. So this is general information about worksheets. These ones are specifics. So what I may want to do here is select these, and we have an option to create a group. So this one would then be worksheets. So actually, once I group them, I don't really need that, do I? But what I can do there is change that to calculation sheets. Oh dear, can't spell at all. There we go. So the worksheets is here. These I would arrange so they're all neat and tidy, and I've got a group. I could make this bigger and move these down because I'm probably going to go through one of these or go through them. Let's make a bit more room so it's even. There we go. I will probably start from that one and then go on to that one and then on to that one. Now, it's all looking fine, but a bit drab, isn't it? Luckily, you can colour code all of this as well. So let's make the calculations. We'll change the colour of that one to a lovely green for maths, and that one. Make that one green. The handwriting, I think we'll have that nice purple in there. So you can start adding colour that means some kind of meaning to you. You're not stuck with the colours that are there. So if we go onto one of these, you can see there's the grey, which is the default, and then you through red up to purple, but you do have this one at the end. And that one enables you, if you do have a hex code, you can click on the bottom and get to the hex and actually put a hex code in. Can you remember your hex code, Mike?
00.
Hang on, I haven't even got a hex here. 00
80
37.
37.
There we go. So that's Mike's green. So although we have a green, that's more Kermit, and this is more Mike. So you can put it in if you want. One of the things I would love to see is if I'm putting colours in using hex codes, when I go back and I go to this one here, you can see that green has not been added as a recent colour or anything. And when I go into here, it's gone back to RGB. And I actually have to click through hue, saturation and lightness to get to hex. And I also think I couldn't paste, which annoyed me. So then I'd have to remember the hex code and type it in again. That could be improved. But the fact that you can use your own colours is fantastic. Right, you can also extend that into the group. So here we have a group. You can zoom in and zoom out of the group, and you've got the colour options. Now, one of the things that annoys me, if I make that red, then the text is white, and I like that. I want the text to be white. But obviously we'd use orange a lot, and we may use this one, and that one goes to black, and I don't like that either, and there's nothing I can do about it. But, you know, it'd be nice if I could. Be nice if I could. You've also got options here to align stuff. So if something was slightly out, with a bit of luck, or is that aligning it? Do I have to select these? I think I do. And then do that, and then say align to the left like that. So you can organise it in any way you want. Right, have we got any questions so far before I move on to the next bit?
No, we don't.
We're enjoying that then?
Yeah, Annie says she quite likes it.
Oh, we'll tempt you yet, you know. Right, now that is content from your vault. These are not in your vault, but if you convert them into a note, then they're in your vault. So this one here, the weekly planner data merge, if we go up to here and we go into there, we have our planner pages canvas, that should be in there somewhere, and our weekly planner should be in there. There it is. So if I click on that, you can see the text that's in there is exactly the same as we had in the canvas. Right. But it gets better than that. So this bit here with the data merge, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stretch that a bit so I could see it. Right, and then probably move it up a bit. That'll do. It's straight. I'll move that out of the way. So this is something that I need to seriously consider. So shall we see if Raycast will work? If I do a YouTube search, and I search for me, and I search for data merge. That should at least bring back something, surely. Oh, it's having a think about it. There we go. Right, probably that one. Oh, we could do that one, because it was weekly. That one, probably. Right, so what I'll do with that is I will right-click on there and copy the URL. I'm probably going to want to refer to that as I go through it. So if I go in here and I just paste, it actually pastes me in a window where I can play it. So with a bit of luck, I'll be able to move this as well. Why are you not moving? That will just make you bigger. There we go. So I would put that down as like, you know, reference material. I'm not stuck with just putting the one in, obviously, because I just went to it and got the link. I'm going to go and get another link and put that one next to it. So all I'm doing is right-clicking on the video, choosing to copy the link, and when my mouse pointer comes out of hibernation, paste it, and that will put it in. You see the link ever so fractionally at the top until it reads it in, and you can actually play it from there. If I try playing it, YouTube's going to get very upset. That happens. It'll think I'm trying to play another video through it, which we don't want, but there you go. That's how it works. Now, what else may I want in there? So if I'm searching for data merge, Affinity Publisher, let's see if I can find a reasonable page. It's still playing this video. Wonder we're not being bombarded with it. Right, so what I've got on here is some help about data merge. So this is the latest from Affinity about data merge. So that's probably something to have as well. So again, I'm going to copy that and click on my canvas and paste that in. And that will paste in that page. So the idea here is rather than just have these as links that you then have to click and go out, that has actually embedded it in here and you can read it in here. You can interact with it in here. So if you want to copy it, you want to highlight it. So let's say let's say all of that is relevant. If I transferred my shortcuts correctly, that should highlight. Oh, it doesn't look like I did. Oh, it would be nice if that had worked. But there you go. Okay, so I've got my information in there and it's visual. So if you were using Scrintl and the reason that you were using Scrintl was the layout aspect of it, then Obsidian has you covered now. I was so excited when this came out. So much so, I got blamed, didn't I, Mike? When Ken spent money.
Yeah.
Because when it came out, it was an insider build only. So you have to voluntarily hand over cash to be part of that. And they kept putting out little incremental updates to it, but not making it public. So you went in the end, didn't you, Ken? It was worth it. Go on. This is brilliant. It is. It's worth it. I've seen amazing things that people have built. I mean, obviously what I'm doing with this is I'm doing some research at the bottom. So I could actually grab all of this together and I could create a group for it and call it research. I could color code it. I could move it out of the way. I've seen huge canvases, you know, things that people have been thinking about and linking to and all kinds of stuff. And I've seen some that are very small but useful. So let's carry on with what you can do with that. So yep, I think we've got everything there. You can embed images if you want. So if you had an image, so I have just taken that image that's in here and put it on my desktop. But if I just dump that in there, that image is in there. I can resize it and now I can see that image as well as the text in here. But the image is also in there as well. So as I keep going down there, it was in there. Oh, gonna make a liar out of me. Were you at the top? Oh, come on. There it is. There it is. So all I've done is drag this out of the website and drag and drop it into here. The one thing to think about if you're going to drag and drop images in here is that they are going to be in your vault and you're going to need to know where they are in case you decide that you're going to delete it, because deleting it off the canvas won't delete it out of the vault. I never add images. And the way that I don't think if I added this image, I don't think it would work. So let me do it the way I do it. And the way I do it is I upload it to Cloud App and then I end up with a URL on the clipboard and I paste that into my note. So if I paste that in there, oh, good grief, it works. I'm amazed. Colour me amazed. I did not think that would work. But you can see you've got a black background. So you would have to try and scoot that down so it fitted. I'm amazed. The difference between this one and this one is the one at the top, the larger one, is not hosted in this vault. So vault size wise, the vault is going to be much smaller because there's nothing embedded in it. But with this one, it's embedded and I don't like embedded images. Rationale for that is I don't want the synchronization to take the best part of a week if I'm working on mobile. So my vault only has text in it, but I can still include images by referring to them rather than embedding them. So that one is referred to. How that would look in a note like this, can I open? Let me open that from over here. Right, how that would look in here is if I put in that is just a link. It's a link to a website. In this case, it's a picture, right? But you can't see anything. But if I go to the beginning and I put an exclamation mark, it loads the image in. So the image is in the cloud. It doesn't matter which device or platform I access this note through, I'm going to see all of the images. But I don't have to synchronize all of those images inside the vault, which is why I do it that way. Right, let's get back to our canvas. Where's the canvas gone? There we go. Right, so I was talking about the kind of thing that you can do with it. So freeform mind mapping, as you've seen, like this, it all retains the links no matter how you need to move it to put more notes in, more explanation, expand the session, whatever you need to do. Great for visualization. So I know I'm starting with the vertical and I'm moving to the horizontal, and then I'm moving to the data merge, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to automate each one. I can see that because of the way the arrows are flowing. Dashboards is something else I've seen people do. So if you had a dashboard, so let's open up that. Did we make a dashboard? I don't think we did. Right, we'll make a dashboard. So we'll make a file and say this is something. Oh, if I could type. I did say I wasn't well. Right, dashboard. So I would put on here the things that, you know, are maybe on deck at the moment. So, and make that some kind of heading, and maybe this week. And then I would refer to what those things are. So let's say I need to work on a project for Sarah. Put a link to Sarah in there. And what else am I going to work on this week? Master pages, whatever that was. Whatever that was. Right. And then later in the week, I've got, Scratchpad. We had the Scratchpad. Oh, I know. We'll talk to Zonka Aarons if he'll take our call. There we are. Right, and one more thing, Raycast update. Right, now you might be thinking, well, just a minute, that's just a page. It is just a page. But if you were to include this page on a canvas, you could plan your week with it. So we won't bother with this canvas. We'll create another canvas. But what we will do is we'll use Command and P, canvas. Now, because we're in a canvas, we've got some extra options. You can jump to a group or you can export the canvas as an image. But I actually want to create a completely new canvas. So I'll create this, and this will be my dashboard. Oh, I've spelt it wrong again. Right, dashboard canvas. Right. Now, at this point, it's saying drag from below or double click, you can add stuff. So this is what I want to do. I want to add in here one of these, and it knows as I'm looking at these what I've used lately. So there's my dashboard, which is open up over here. But here I can move it around. I can make it bigger so I can add extra content to it. And I don't actually have to have this open at all. So next to this, I could put notes that I'm working on and use this as kind of a jump off point. I'm remembering if I hold the command key down, I can preview it as well. So here's the notes that we had written about those. And we obviously haven't put anything in about Sarah. And you're not limited to just the one thing. So if I'm working on that Raycast demo right now, then I could add that in here. So if I click that, put in Raycast, this was the one that I'm interested in. There is the Raycast demo. And I can put that up here, make it whatever height I want, make it whatever width I want, and work on it in there. And I don't particularly have to move. So if you, the way I work in Obsidian, I've got past the physicality of it. It doesn't matter to me that I'm looking at basically a text-based page. I can work quite happily with that. But if you are more of a visual person that you want to have available to you more than one note, you could use it in that way. You don't have to link everything together. You don't have to color code everything. Whatever makes sense for you. And because it's limitless, you can take this as far as you want. I can't see me going that way, but you tell me, what do you think? Would you like that kind of visual dashboard? I tend to work in the daily page. Everything gets thrown in the daily page and gets tidied up either at the end of the day or the end of the week, one or the other. And if it's not done by the end of the week, then I also have the monthly review when I can sort it out there. But let me know what you think. Would you use that as a dashboard or not? Another thing that you could do is if you've got content in here and you're trying to write an essay maybe, then instead of having like the dashboard aspect of it, you could throw on here the cards that have got content in them, or the notes that have content in them that you want to pull content from. So pretty much the way a Zettelkasten works, which is a card index box where everything's on a separate card. So take out 20 cards, throw them on the canvas and move them around, group them together, add extra notes and see what makes sense as you're throwing an article together or something like that. I've not actually created anything that way, I'll be honest. The nearest I got to it was what you saw earlier, which was the end of Ship 30, the last week of Ship 30. And I found that incredibly useful. And I did move them around. At one stage, I had some arrows between them as well because I felt that one followed on from another. I didn't need the arrows once I'd got them lined up properly. So once I'd got them all lined up with, that was how they needed to be put out day by day. I then didn't need the arrows. So let me move and show you that. So if I was thinking, you know, like this 25 goes to 27, I was actually in here doing this and then thinking about whether I needed to move 26 somewhere else. And of course, you can still click on these and say like, follow on or whatever. So to me, I wouldn't have thought I would take to an app that was text-based. GoodNotes, OneNote from Microsoft. Everything was visual and laid out and colour-coded. Apart from my heading colours, I'm not even bothered on the canvas whether things are colour-coded. But it worked in terms of, I wanted the last week of Ship 30 to be organised, and I was writing day 30 on day 24. Whereas earlier on, I always tell myself I'll be ahead. I'm never ahead. It's usually a 5 to midnight thing. But the last week was organised and that was how I did it. So that's a genuine one. As you can see, final 7 days. I could see moving forward that I might have a canvas for the whole 30 days. And that way, as ideas come to me, instead of having them in a list and shuffling them up and down, I could actually move the card with like, well, that would make more sense if it came the day after this one, and that one would make more sense at the end or whatever. Obviously, you'd have to be organised for that and organising the entire 30 days. But luckily, the next cohort isn't until April, so I've got time to sort that out. So do we have any questions about that?
No.
Oh, no. Okay, if we don't have any questions, I will go into here. What do we have coming up? Oh, we actually have something coming up, apart from next week, obviously. We've got a session on Monday, and it is planner pages for teachers in Affinity Publisher. If you are not a teacher, that does not mean you have the night off, because the stuff that we'll be doing is the same no matter what. So a conditional data merge is a conditional data merge. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, Elaine, you're thinking. But Affinity Publisher doesn't do conditional data merge. No, it doesn't. But guess what? Much as I don't want to rattle Peter, and did I mention I'm not too good? So don't start, Peter. It's still there. There's a dirty hack for that. So you can conditionally data merge, you just don't do it in Affinity Publisher. And layouts are layouts. It's just that the demonstrations will turn into pages for teachers. Right, and what else do we have? Oh, yes, on Friday we're back on 83. I've no idea what we're covering yet. If you've got any suggestions, send them in and I'll consider them. And I know what Peter's thinking. I don't want the dogs upset for any longer than they absolutely have to be. So it's in hand, trust me. Right, also available on demand, everything that we do. So, youtube.com/Elaine Giles or /@Elaine Giles. Have you noticed any difference with that? Nobody's atted me, but apparently you can. It's a thing. We also have our playlist. As soon as we finished, the last show gets added to it. So to get to our playlist is macbites.co.uk/after hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. And it's Valentine's week. So you've no excuse not to push a like on it. Because weirdness is happening with the views. Weirdness will happen with the likes. But, always handy to have a few. And you could subscribe as well. And that way you will find out all that we are doing firsthand. Right, there is my mailing list at elainegiles.com/VIP. I think they did get first dibs this week, didn't they?
Yeah.
I sent a mail anyway. I know that's unusual, but I did. Oh, I'm getting on it. And then there's news of MacBites and all things after hours, which is macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. In the interim, so you're not bored and lonely, there's Slack, where we carry on the conversation. And I've just realised I didn't transfer last week's join thing. I've only got the one if you are a member, but I will sort that out for next week. But if you are a member, all you need to do is go to macbites.co.uk/Slack and you'll be able to log in. Have you got the other link?
And if you're not a member, go to macbites.co.uk/join Slack.
Oh, that's right. You see, I've got no recollection of what I put on the slide. I'm not well. This is what I'm saying. I'm sure I transferred that. If I did, I don't know what presentation I've put it in. That's concerning, isn't it? I'll find it. I'll find it from last week's. There you go. Right, so what do we have in the way of questions? Hit me up with your questions. I'll take comments as well. What have we got in the way of comments if we've got no questions?
Jammies watched a 5-hour epic the other day.
Oh, good grief, what were we doing? Remind me. Jammy's heading up for the gold medal, isn't he?
Yeah.
In marathon.
Andy's crying because 2 hours in and we're at the end.
Sorry about that. Did I mention not well? Thank you, Pandemonium. I'm loving those glasses. I'm liking that. Right, I'm definitely going to have to zoom that in because I lost my glasses, didn't I? On top of everything else,
I lost
them under the bed. Well, yesterday I lost 2 pairs under the bed, so I couldn't see a thing. And then today I thought, mustn't drop those glasses. So I reached over to pick up a pair and the other pair disappeared under the bed. Bad words were said. And then Mike came in and you were heading straight for the bed. And I said, whoa, I've lost my glasses. So there was poor Mike, head under the bed looking for them. They are both now nailed down, aren't they? One, I've got a pair on. I don't know what happened to the other pair. This is why I have 2 pairs. Oh, and one of those little, those chain things that people have. Now, you see, I would love to wear that. And I got one, didn't I? But it gets tangled in my hair. So, no, I'm not particularly doing that. Thank you, Kim. Kim said she hopes to get better. Oh, poor Jammy. Jammy, it might be longer next week. You never know. And anyway, you've overdone yourself with the 5-hour epic. You need to pace yourself. You're the one that goes to the gym. I'm sure they tell you to pace yourself. I pace myself with the gym, don't I?
Yeah.
Don't bother going at all. Yeah. I've never been a gym botherer. No. The only time that hang on. Well, we went ice skating, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, early doors. Wasn't that our first week's holiday together? After I'd done my finals.
I think it was.
Yeah, it took us about 6 months to recover.
Yeah,
didn't
we
it?
fell over a lot.
We fell over a lot, which was, that was poor form anyway. But didn't your feet end up as bad as mine? I actually owned a pair of ice skates. Right, so I had my own ice skates. I wasn't hiring them. Oh, my feet. And we went on day 1, I think, and we had like a whole week of like experiences to enjoy. I couldn't walk after day 1. Oh, my poor blistered feet. Wasn't that the holiday we went to Chester Zoo as well?
I think it was.
Yes, to see the rabbits. And Mike had seen me as a sophisticated solicitor doing my law finals. And then he took me to the zoo. He took me into the petting area, and there were the bunny rabbits. And I changed into a 2-year-old child, like looking at unicorns, didn't I? And I was billing and cooing and squealing. And Mike's looking at me like, have I swapped this woman? I enjoyed it. Oh, look at the rabbits. Aren't they gorgeous? And poor Mike stood there like, oh, she's embarrassing. She's 24. No, actually, I was 25. You were 24. I was 25, acting like a 2-year-old. But I enjoyed myself. Oh, Jammy, I haven't got an unboxing. Is there anything I could contemplate buying? No, I think the last thing I bought was Kindle books. I'll have to find something to unbox. There you go.
I've just bought something.
Oh, no, see, Jammy hated it at first and he loves it now. I wouldn't want to put myself into that position. Oh, no. No, I could become, what do they call them? The ones that go to the gym and never stop.
Obsessed.
Insane. Well, obsessed, insane. I thought that... No, there's a word. It's not one that I've internalised.
And I've just bought something. Jamie said ooh, but I don't think it'll be an ooh when I tell him what it is.
Oh, go on.
It's from Amazon. It's gluten-free pancake mix.
Oh, good grief. Tell them where that came from, because I didn't think they had any food there.
Ethiopia.
So you have to get the gluten-free pancake mix all the way from Ethiopia.
I don't think it's coming from Ethiopia.
Nothing would surprise me. Nothing. Oh, my word. Oh, Kim says, imagine if there were pandas. Oh, I think he'd have dumped me. I think he would have dumped me. When I went to visit the pandas, I was in London and I was 19. And I know this because I was sitting A-levels. So I was hopping all over London from venue to venue, sitting these A-levels. And there was one day and I didn't have any. So I thought, right. And I was staying in a college in Regent's Park. Regent's Park is like the size of Sale, isn't it? It's huge. And at the top end is London Zoo, and they had a panda. So that was it. Off I headed. This panda, oh, it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. It was in a tree. Curled up asleep in a tree. I was there from 10 o'clock till 3:30 when it finally woke up. I learnt lots of things about pandas from that experience.
Like that Kit Kat advert.
It was just like the Kit Kat advert. Find the link for that. It was a Kit Kat advert where this bloke's waiting and waiting and waiting for the panda to come out. And he takes a break to have a Kit Kat and the panda comes out and dances and everything. It was just like that. I learnt lots about pandas and I had lots of pictures of it in the tree. And I was thinking to myself, at the time I had like an SLR camera, but it only took like 24 or 36 photos. And it was like, if I have to stop to wind this back to change the film, it'll probably come down and do like the closing act of Swan Lake. And I was like, yeah, but I need to take a picture where it is because it might not come down at all. Oh, it was a farce. And then it came down. My word, it could shift when it wanted. It basically did like its entire exercise for the day and marched around the cage. But the thing was, by that point, everyone else had given up. So there was just me and the panda there, and the panda was meandering around making like a mewing noise. It was just too cute. Oh yes, Kim, if it had been a panda, yeah, he'd have left me there. He'd have left me there at the zoo. We did go back a good few years later. That was when we went on the monorail, wasn't it?
Mm.
And there was a red panda. In fact, I think there was two, wasn't there? The boy one was lower down in the tree. And again, he was in he had like a little tree house. And the other one was higher up. Had she just had babies or something? They weren't coming out anyway. But there was hope that the boy one might. Again, we must have sat there for 3 hours. Poor Mike. It'll come out in a minute. It'll come out in a minute. And then it did. Oh, it was like a cat. Oh, it was gorgeous. Didn't a couple escape in Northern Ireland?
They did.
Oh, I was all for visiting. Could come home with it. Red pandas don't really look anything like pandas, but they're cute in their own right. So we had a lovely time at Chester Zoo. That was when Mum wouldn't go. Do you remember? Mm. She was grumpy. It was because David and Victoria Beckham rocked up with the kids. This was many years ago when they were young kids. And Chester Zoo, in their wisdom, to be fair on the Beckhams, they didn't ask. But Chester Zoo closed down so they could walk round on their own. And my mother was disgusted with that, which I must admit, that's really not on. They didn't ask them for that, so they shouldn't have done it. So Mum was like, I'm not going to Chester Zoo. And I thought, I don't really care if you're or not, Mum. There's a red panda there and I'm going. I don't think we have a panda anymore, do we? Or is there one still in Edinburgh?
Not sure.
If there's one in Edinburgh, we need to go and see it before it's too late. Because, oh, mind you, Sturgeon's gone. So we might not need a passport to visit Scotland now she's gone. It depends who takes over. Could be worse. Could need a passport next week. So if there's a panda in Edinburgh, we need to go see it. That's what we need. Oh, Jammy was labelled insane before going to the gym. Oh, and Jammy's not had bad experiences. Small and expensive. Yeah, well, you see, I've been on gluten-free 30-odd years. Trust me, back in the day, it was like cardboard. Oh, it was bad. Do you remember that? Oh, was it Russian rye bread? Mum decided as soon as it was like, all right, you're a celiac. Mum sprang into action. I'm going to learn. I'm going to find, because she couldn't get a cookbook on it because there wasn't any. I'm going to find a way to cook something, bread, pies, things like that. Anything pastry-wise, cake-wise, that tastes good. And I'm like, I wouldn't bother if I were you, Mum. So the other thing that she did was, let's find some bread that's gluten-free that you can eat. And she got this bread. It was I think it was Russian rye bread or something. It was. And she brought it in and she put it on the table. And I said, don't drop that. It weighed about 5 stone. It was smaller than a normal sized loaf of bread. It was that heavy. I thought, you're going to break the table. Then I opened it and it was jet black. It looked like it was made out of tar. Surprisingly, it didn't taste bad. It didn't taste like bread, but it didn't taste bad. If you were desperate for something to put something on, like a crisp sandwich, there's healthy for you. It wouldn't have been bad, but I don't think they sold that anymore. But now the stuff's not bad, but back then there was nothing. And the biscuits, everything was vile. Everything was vile. And a loaf of bread would cost you about £12. There was talk about letting you have it on prescription and you paid like an annual rate. And I said, I'm not that bothered, and I just gave it up. But things are much, much, much better now. In fact, because Tesco have been a complete farce last week, and things aren't looking much better for tomorrow, are they?
No.
No, if you're honest, they're not. This week, they've let Lola down. So we'll see what rocks up, but on the promise of absolutely nothing. So she's going to be grumpy. They can send Wendy all they like. She's still going to be grumpy. If she took a chunk out of Wendy, do you think they'd actually get some stock in? What's happening is we order something one week, and whether it arrives or not, that's it. Goes out of stock and it never comes back in. So that's happening more and more. I think we need to change. I think we need to let them know that we have alternatives. Let's put it like that and go to Morrison's. So yes, we could be pretty grumpy next week. Probably came out of one of Putin's warheads. I tell you what, if Putin put it in one of his warheads, he couldn't lose, trust me. Oh, it was. It was one of those things. I mean, it was very thin as well. For bread, it was maybe no more than 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch thick. About 1/8 of an inch thick it was. But picking it up, it was so dense. It was heavy. It was really heavy. And once you'd eaten one piece, that was it. You did not need to eat anything else, I can assure you. I don't know if they still make it now, but it once was enough. It's like, Mum, that's not bread. She did make something that was fabulous. Was it celery? Celery bread? I'm sure it was celery rather than cucumber. It looked like a cottage loaf. And it was fantastic. Oh, that was amazing. You would not have believed it. It looked like bread. It tasted like bread. In fact, it tasted better than bread. My dad would carry on eating bread, irrespective of whether Mum and I could, and we couldn't. And it got to the stage, like, he was, would you say he was helpless? He gave a good impression of it. But he wouldn't want to make his own food, would he? And if Mum couldn't do it, Do you remember that time she was in bed and when he flooded the conservatory? Don't ask. Long story. He took a pipe out the washing machine and turned it on, and then wonder why the floor was swimming. I said, well, why did you take the pipe out, the overflow pipe? Well, I didn't know it was the overflow pipe. I thought, well, you put it in. You install the overflow pipe. Don't ask. But she was in bed and she was ill, so I had to make his food for him. And there I am in rubber gloves trying to butter some bread because I can't even touch bread or cakes or anything like that. My skin starts to peel off, so we don't want that. That nobody wants to see that. But instead of him doing it, no. In fact, he had a good line, didn't he? In being that dim-witted, you wouldn't trust him. So once he said, shall I make you a cup of tea? I said, yes, please. He brought it in and it was cold. He said, I took a sip. I said, Dad, this is cold. Oh, did you want it boiling? I mean, who drinks cold tea? But once he'd done that, he knew that somebody like my grandmother and my mum would say, leave it, I'll do it. And I'm like, oh, you're an idiot. And then it was like, well, I'll go and make a proper one. So he knew how to do it. He just didn't want to do it. Then you wonder why there's bad words. Oh, gluten-free chicken nuggets. Sister got them thinking they were vegan. I was horrified. They were free from. Oh, that's not good, is it? Mind you, what would be in a chicken nugget if there was no chicken in it? That's an interesting point. It wouldn't then be a chicken nugget, would it? What's that thing that Giggs used to advertise? Corn. I'm not actually sure what corn is, but I know it's a meat replacement, isn't it? Oh, the poor girl. Oh, double chocolate muffins, gluten-free. Oh, no, I don't think we have those. The supermarket that has the best range for that, the absolute best range for that, is Aldi. But Aldi don't deliver. Aldi's a German company who started off as like a really cheap supermarket. Since then, they've improved quality-wise. But they're the only supermarket that's growing. I think they've just taken on another 6,000 staff, haven't they? But they don't home deliver. I said to Mike, if they home delivered, Tesco would be bankrupt. If they could just home deliver, that would be amazing. We'll have to have a word with them. That would be brilliant. But not at the moment. Oh, burst the bag and leaves the bits at the bottom. No! Oh, no. That should be criminal. That should be criminal. But I knew with him, it was just... He had learnt as a kid that the more helpless he was, the more the matronly type looked after him. Because, do you remember that thing in Apple? I was an orphan. He was an orphan. His mum died when he was about 4. So he really was an orphan. But he learnt that there were a lot of aunts that would like, oh, the poor lamb. So the more helpless he was, the better he got looked after. But obviously that stopped when he met me. Yeah, that's not happening. I know you can boil tea. I know you know how to make a cup of tea. If you think I'm going to make one for... In fact, I could do that, couldn't I? Because whereas I knew he knew how, most of the time I didn't know how. I do not have a domestic bone in my body, do I? Like all those white boxes we used to have lined up and I didn't know which was which. You put pots into some, but clothes into others, and then other was a fridge and one was a freezer. I don't know. They all look the same. That's Mike's area of expertise. But most of the network equipment all looks the same to you, doesn't it? Mm. It's me that knows what cable goes where. I think fridges and freezers and washing machines should all be different colours, and then I'd know which was which. Mum was just concerned that I didn't put the pots in the washer. Other than that, she wasn't bothered. But, I don't do things like that. No, leave it alone. There you go. He does it on purpose, so I won't ask again, but I do out of spite. You need to get some tea bags that are rip-proof. That's what you need. Do you remember those triangular ones? Were they Tetleys? Or the ones with the drawstrings in? That's another one. We need to outwit him. This is what we need, Jamie. I shall think on this and we shall ponder it. Right, last shout for questions before we head off. Do you think ice cream might make me feel better?
Yeah, why not?
I think there's a good chance it would. Had to have an ice cream the other night because I needed some pills and I hadn't eaten. So it was before dinner, wasn't it? I felt like a naughty child. I said, can I have an ice cream? He's like, but it's only an hour till dinner. Yes, but I've got to take these painkillers and I need something, so can I have an ice cream? And I was allowed an ice cream. If Tesco ever stopped sending ice creams, we have so had it. Aldi have ice creams, though. Oh, you do have pyramids, but he destroys them. This is not good enough. We need training here. What flavour would it be? It would probably be vanilla. A white Magnum. I'm predicting. I only have two. There's either vanilla or there's what's the other one? Salted caramel. One or the other. That's it. So I'm thinking it'll probably be vanilla. Oh, Yorkshire tea's the way to go. Yorkshire tea's a little bit strong for me. I think it's got a really nice taste. But Dad used to have Yorkshire and he insisted on putting 3 tea bags in each cup. I mean, pretty much you didn't pour it out. You used a chisel. And he loved it. But to me, it was like, I can't even look at that. I can't even look at it. But it does have a nice taste, as does Tetley. Tell you what didn't have a nice taste. That one that have gone bankrupt. I'm not surprised they've gone bankrupt. The tea was vile. Tradecraft. At the church, you can be a Tradecraft church, but you have to, if you sell tea and coffee, it has to be Tradecraft tea and coffee. So they went for this Tradecraft mark. And swapped the tea bags that they were getting. Now, I mean, that was a bit silly because then they had to put the prices up because the Tradecraft ones were more expensive. So it was right. From Sunday, it's Tradecraft. Well, Mike brought the tea back and I looked at it. It didn't look great. Oh, I said, I can't drink that. So what we started doing after that, because we already weren't having milk, Mike would go up and say, just hot water. And we'd take our own tea back. Anyway, Tradecraft have gone bust. Unsurprisingly. I don't know how much they sold, but the stuff was quite expensive. I mean, it's because you're supporting the ethos of Tradecraft, isn't it? But, if you can't drink it, like the Tradecraft lady would say, can I sell you some tea bags? And like, no, we don't drink tea. Because you didn't like saying it tastes vile. I wouldn't wash the grid with it. But that's what you meant. So, yes, they've gone bust. Oh, Aldi breakfast tea. I need to get out, don't I? Soon. We've got an anniversary coming up in a couple of weeks. 3 years. 3 years since the pandemic hit. So, if they delivered, I need to have a word with them and tell them that they need to deliver. Because a lot of the stuff from Aldi is amazing quality. Do you remember when we did that? There was an event, I can't remember which one, and we went to get some Pringles. And Pringles, when I last bought them, were like 99 pence. And I found the Pringles were £3.99. And I thought, what? So I thought, I'll leave them and I'll have a look what they've got in Aldi. And you go in Aldi and they're like 60p. They were fractionally smaller, but they could afford to be at 60 pence instead of £3.99. So I got the ones from Aldi and I put them out. I thought, I'm not letting anybody see the Aldi packet because I know what they'll think. But I'll just put them out. And people were saying how fabulous they were. And they were better than the Pringles they had. Their gluten-free biscuits are absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely fabulous. And other stuff I've got from there. What makes us laugh with that is when our Catenian friends, when we used to see them going around Aldi, they were only ever there, weren't they, for the toolkit in the middle aisle. They would never admit they bought anything else, but you should have seen the baskets, they're overflowing. There is nothing wrong with Aldi stuff. It's really good quality. I remember the cheese and, was it ham? Not ham. What was the packets of meat we used to get there? Was it
ham? There was salami.
There was a chicken that was like chicken. Pieces of roast chicken, and they were soaked in something. Like orange, maybe Cajun or something. They were gorgeous. They were absolutely gorgeous. So I miss Aldi. They need to deliver. Oh, they've just got the top store in which magazine? I'm not surprised. I really just wish they would deliver. And I know that's quite a logistic thing for them. But you would think in a town the size of Manchester. I mean, Manchester's that big. We've got 3 or 4 Amazon depots. We are not short of stuff like that. And I would have thought there's an Aldi in Stretford, isn't there, opposite the Tesco? There's the one in near the. Have you noticed this? Near the Tesco in Withy, and they're fairly big, so you would have imagined they could do something. Well, fingers crossed they bring that. Oh, their Prosecco's incredible too. And there's you going to the gym. Now, see, I don't drink a thing other than water and an odd tea. If I can find warm water in a tea bag, don't drink at all. This is why I'm so youthful looking, isn't it, Mike? Sorry?
What?
Did you notice that then? Right, okay then. We will head off so I can recuperate. Do we have shopping services like Instacart? Maybe they could shop there. I would imagine there's something like that, but not that I'm aware of. I'd imagine you might be able to... There may be taxi services that would do that. I don't know. But there should definitely be something like that. A little bit like Just Eat. Because, I mean, I don't use them at all. We don't have takeout either. But don't they... You can get McDonald's from them as well as Chinese and Indian, can't you? You know, they just provide... They just go get the food and deliver it. That would be great. But not that I'm aware of, no. Oh, Jammy doesn't anymore, but when you did, oh, good boy. See, this is what happens when you go to the gym. You give up all the stuff you like. You don't want to do that. Anyway, I'm going to head off and have a rest. So I'm going to say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.